A special House session to provide relief to the Postal Service comes as protests flare up around the country, including here in Montana. Plus, will bookstores be forced to put more stock into online sales? One store in Great Falls is fighting against the trend. And later, it's a language spoken only by a few hundred people, including some in Montana. How the Salish language is at risk of becoming even more rare thanks to the coronavirus pandemic.
From Montana's News Leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Hello and thanks for spending your Saturday night with us. I'm Matt Holzaffel. Here's your coronavirus update for today. Our map showing just over 150 new confirmed cases since yesterday. We're seeing 1,430 active cases and just over 6,400 confirmed cases throughout the state. Cascade County reports 196 total cases, 30 of those are active. Lewis and Clark County showing 191 confirmed cases overall, 40 of those are active. Montana sits ahead of Vermont, Wyoming, Maine, Alaska, and Hawaii in confirmed cases in the United States. Now here's a look at where we're seeing those 91 deaths reported from. Yellowstone County with almost half of that total, 35 deaths. Bighorn County shows 15, Cascade with 5, while Lewis and Clark County reports 2. This evening, Great Falls Public Schools have released their COVID-19 athletic facility and event management plan. The plan says, quote, "It is therefore incumbent upon the district of the home team to ensure that visiting teams from outside of Cascade County are aware of the terms of this plan and provide an indication that they will comply with them prior to the activity or the event. The aim of this plan is to mitigate and manage the range of risks associated with school sports and activities while acknowledging that there will likely be cases of COVID-19 associated with these activities. Here are some of the highlights of the plan. All individuals connected to or in attendance of the event agree to submit to a screening process including questions related to their current state of physical health. All participants, spectators, and game personnel will wear a mask or face covering for the duration of the contest and maintain appropriate social distancing of 6 feet at all times. Family groups are allowed to sit together. Players participating in the contest will not be required to mask at times when they are actively involved in competition or immediately recovering. The AA Conference and Great Falls Public Schools have altered schedules to eliminate the need for overnight stays. Each participant in uniform will be issued 3 passes to be distributed to parents or their family members that can be used to gain admittance to the event. Concessions will not be offered at any district facility until further notice. Only workers deemed essential for the management of the event or contest will be utilized, and all event workers will be masked at all times. The district also released specific plans for different facilities, including Memorial Stadium, CMR Fieldhouse, and the Great Falls High Fieldhouse. In a rare Saturday session, the House passed Democrat-sponsored legislation that would provide billions in funding to the Postal Service. The coronavirus is expected to prompt a flood of mail-in ballots in this election, but comments from President Trump against mail-in voting and reports of service slowdowns have raised a firestorm. CBS News correspondent Michael George reports from New York.
The bill is passed.
The House passed Postal Service legislation that Democrats say is needed to protect the November election.
It was so angering for Americans across the political spectrum that President Trump and Postmaster General DeJoy openly sabotaged the Postal Service in order to prevent people from casting votes through the mail.
The Democrat-sponsored bill calls for the cash-strapped Postal Service to receive an extra $25 billion in funding. House Republicans slammed the legislation, which would also reverse recent Postal Service changes amid concerns about mail-in voting.
This bill is a sham. It is a shame.
Is this part of some vast conspiracy? No. It's part of a decades-long realignment process where the post office is trying to match the needs of the consumers to the post office infrastructure.
After a barrage of criticism, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy said he would halt cost-cutting moves until after the presidential election.
The Postal Service is fully capable and committed to delivering the nation's election mail securely and on time.
On Friday, he told a Senate committee recent delays will not affect mail-in voting. But DeJoy said he would not restore mailboxes and sorting machines that have been removed. President Trump, a vocal critic of mail-in balloting, is now saying he'll deploy law enforcement to polling places.
It's a suppress the vote tactic, as is the suppressing of the ability of the postal system to deliver on its responsibility.
It's unclear if the president has the authority to bring officers to the polls on Election Day. Michael George, CBS News.
And the legislation is not expected to be taken up in the Republican-controlled Senate, and President Trump promises to veto the bill if it reaches his desk. And all this comes as a special session on a day when thousands across the nation came together to protest recent USPS decisions, including a group in Montana. Protesters outside the downtown Billings post office say they're concerned with the Postal Service dismantling machines and decreasing service, and continue to worry the measures could affect mail-in ballots for the election. The group Indivisible Yellowstone says they're skeptical about Postmaster General DeJoy's comments on handling elections.
Well, he said he would make sure that people could vote by mail and be safe, and that was encouraging, but I'm not too sure I trust him. I'm not afraid of fraud. I think there's very, very little fraud. It's not an issue that I worry about. The history of the Postal Service is the history of our democracy, period.
Well, today was a hazy day for many, and let's send it over to our Storm Tracker weather team to find out just why. Grant Garland joins us now. Grant?
That's right, Matt, and the reason why is because we had to travel out to California where the wildfires are really blazing right now, and actually as the smoke lifts into the air, well, our jet stream is able to pick that up and to bring it across all the way out to the Treasure State. So that is why we are looking at the reasons for haze, why we can't really see the mountains at times, and also why we also have some problems breathing. If you are sensitive to the air quality, know that right now in Helena and Lewistown, we're looking at moderate conditions. As we look at as we take a look at what's happening right now, we do have an air quality warning in effect until tomorrow at 4 p.m. So if you are sensitive to some of the breathing conditions outside, just make sure that you limit your time out there. Temperatures right now 68 in Great Falls, 66 in both Havre and Lewistown, 79 still in Glasgow, and it's still windy out there too along the High Line out towards Glasgow at 16 miles an hour. We aren't seeing any problems, just a few clouds east and south, east of Lewistown and south of Lewistown. And temperatures tonight falling down to around 53 degrees here in Great Falls. Now coming up, we're going to talk about some rain chances for the area, but for now, back to you.
All right, thank you, Grant. Lewis and Clark County leaders say they're still taking applications to fill the county's treasurer position, clerk and recorder positions as well. The county will be accepting candidates until Monday. The treasurer, clerk, and recorder oversees a variety of duties, including elections, motor vehicle titles, and property tax collection. Incumbent Paulette DeHart is retiring September 25th. The County Commission will appoint someone to fill the job through the end of 2022. Candidates must be a Montana resident and registered to vote in Lewis and Clark County. The county plans to review applications in early September and hold interviews by the middle of the month. Montana's tourism industry might not be seeing the complete pandemic devastation that some feared in early spring, but as MTN's Dennis Bragg explains, University of Montana researchers say 2020 is still shaping up as one of the worst tourism business years in a decade.
If there was ever a year for camping in Montana, this is it. The reopening COVID-cascaded campgrounds, which started in May, hasn't slowed down, even approaching Labor Day.
They were getting crushed early on. As soon as it started opening for day use, people were flocking to them. At first, that was Montanans getting out to enjoy our nature. Then we started seeing more and more out-of-state plates that were jumping in that mix as well.
But that's one of the few bright spots. Last year, Montana's tourism industry generated $3.7 billion. This year, the quarantine hit when the state usually gets 20% of its visitors. While some sectors are recovering, the UM researchers say accommodations and set-down restaurants are still hurting.
So you might see some switching from restaurant consumption to grocery store consumption. You get your gear, your food, you go and eat at your picnic table, your camping spot, whatever that might be.
But what about all those out-of-state license plates we've talked about? Sage says the current readings don't show anything out of the ordinary, although there may be a trend through the fall.
I would anticipate, though, as we have folks around the country that are less likely to fly, their driving distance is increasing a little bit, and their willingness to drive is out there.
So what happens from here? Montana gets about 50% of its tourist traffic in the third quarter, but with August reservations off by 52% and September by 61%, there's still a lot to worry about.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a slower recovery, and it's going to be time, and it's going to be dependent upon what happens as far as our ability to get a vaccine out and getting the standards, getting this virus under control. And really what that is going to come down to, and it always comes down to, is what does our economy look like? Do people have the confidence in their jobs, their employment, to go out and do a big travel experience? You know, if our economy recovers, our tourism sector goes right with it.
In Seeley Lake, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
And Sage says a bright spot has been the rebound in visits at Yellowstone and Glacier, which helped to drive tourism traffic across the state. As coronavirus continues to threaten countless independent businesses, including bookstores, many bookshops have shifted from in-person to online sales. But Great Falls' own Cassiopeia Books is managing just fine without having to move their sales online. Other than a slight decline in business at the start of the pandemic, Cassiopeia said business has remained steady. They owe their stability to a loyal customer base that prefers physical books and in-person browsing to online alternatives. One of those customers, Stacy Berquist, shares why he believes bookshops like Cassiopeia have a long future ahead.
But for somebody like me, it's always going to be the ability to hold the book. And I think just the charm, the ambiance, the ability to wander up and down aisles and find something new. I don't find that very satisfying if I try to do that online.
Cassiopeia Books is open Tuesday through Friday from 11 to 7 and Saturdays from 10 to 4. Well, they were supposed to compete in a competition in Kalispell. After that event was canceled, the Helena Dragon Boat Club made their own competition, and anyone could participate.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Welcome back. After over 2 decades of coaching track and field at the University of Montana, Brian Schwein recently announced his resignation from the school. When speaking with MTN's Kyle Hansen, Schwein said it was a difficult decision, but ultimately a necessary one.
I think anyone who knows who's close to me and my family and knows the last 5 months, I don't think it's a surprise.
The end of a coaching era at UM came to a close last week when Brian Schwein resigned as the head track and field coach. And speaking with MTN Sports earlier this week, Schwein said since his wife Shannon was not retained as the Lady Grizz coach in April, life changed for him as things got uncomfortable and he decided it was best to move on.
It's hard sometimes walking in that office. I have respect for so many people throughout all my years in that department. It became an uncomfortable situation that was tough to handle, and when you walk in and it feels like certain people are avoiding you and doing things, it's really tough. And I thought for me, best thing I can do is step away, and I think it's probably best for everybody.
Schwein said at first when Shannon was not kept, he planned on staying, hopefully for a few more years. But as time went on, things got more uncomfortable and his decision to leave came recently.
And looking back, it's been a great run, a great experience, and I'm thankful for every athlete and every coach that I've met along the way.
Schwein recently accepted a job to work at First Interstate Bank in Missoula in the commercial lending department as the new chapter in his life. Starting as a volunteer assistant in 1994, Schwein became the head coach in 2008, and since then he saw multiple cross-country and track and field athletes qualify for national meets. He was also a staunch supporter of June Eastwood's story, who drew national attention and plenty of criticism to UM last August when she became the first male-to-female transgender athlete to run in a Division I cross-country race. He said a lot of his athletes have reached out with well wishes and have been understanding and supportive of his decision.
Well, it means everything to me. I think it's a rewarding experience that few people get to have in regards to the connections and relationships you get to build with young adults and helping them mold some part of their character and their ability to go deeper into themselves and get more out of themselves that hopefully they use for the rest of their life will be successful.
In Missoula, Kyle Hansen, MTN Sports.
Schwein also thanked the school, his family, the Missoula community, and the fans for their support over the years. UM cross-country coach Clint May is expected to become the new head track and field coach in the coming days. The Helena Dragon Boat Club will begin its first annual Big Sky Paddle Challenge on September 1st. The challenge involves many categories such as the fastest to 500 meters and the longest continuous paddle. Anyone is welcome to join in on the challenge. You choose your paddle-powered vessel, body of water, and the distance. The club created this event after the annual Montana Dragon Boat Festival in Big Fork was canceled.
We really wanted to bring something back to our community since we weren't able to meet in person and practice all summer. And we had really planned on doing a lot of community events that were just not able to happen this year. So the Big Sky Paddle Challenge came out of our desire to be on the water.
All results must be submitted to the club by September 30th. Guidelines will be posted on our website.
Well, temperatures tonight, 45 degrees in Cut Bank and around 53 and 52 in Havre. Don't go away. Your 7-day forecast is coming up next.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with Grant Garland.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope that you have had a pleasant Saturday evening. It was really nice outside. I was able to take my dog Pongo out to the dog park and just soak in the last few rays of sun earlier this evening. Temperatures in Fort Benton right now, 70 degrees. We're looking at calm conditions, kind of quiet. Always beautiful to go downtown Fort Benton. Temperatures today, 89 degrees in Great Falls, a little bit warmer in Helena at 91. You headed out towards the east, though, Glasgow and Jordan, 97 degrees. Very, very hot as you headed out towards east, but out towards west, Kalispell and Cutbank, both 82 degrees. Now, the average temperature for Helena is right around 83. The record was set back in 2006 when it was 97 degrees. Also, the year that Casino Royale came out and we got to see Daniel Craig take on the iconic role of James Bond. I think he's one of the best Bonds there is. I don't know. Controversy. 66 degrees in Lewistown, 62 in Cutbank, 66 in Havre right now, 79 in Jordan as well as Glasgow, and around 68 here in the Electric City. It was a very windy day today. We are still seeing 16-mile-per-hour winds in Glasgow right now. But currently with our peak wind gusts, 46-mile-per-hour winds in Cutbank, 41 in Havre. All along the High Line, we had very windy conditions, and then we were able to see some too here in the Electric City at 31 and down towards Capitol around 26. We are still looking at some burn restrictions from Havre all the way out to Glasgow, and I expect that will stay in for the time being. Missoula, Kalispell, Helena, and Butte all under a local ban, as well as Lewistown. As far as we're looking at clouds, we aren't seeing too many. We're expecting a mostly clear to clear night for pretty much everyone out and about. Over the next couple of days, we will see a few clouds try and build in tomorrow morning as they make their way towards the north. And earlier we were possibly going to see a shower or two for our friends in Glasgow tomorrow. Now we're not expecting that. As we go throughout, though, the morning on Monday, we start to see a few clouds try and roll in. That's we are going to be looking at showers and thunderstorms making their way from the southwest towards the northeast. We could be looking at getting clipped by maybe a shower or two, which we desperately need. So hopefully that will happen. We're looking at maybe only a 20% chance, though, of any shower activity, and it will probably stay in the nighttime that we see that. As far as when our driest time will be tomorrow, it's going to be around 6 o'clock when we're 13% humidity, very dry for Great Falls. And then also for our friends in Helena, we're going to be looking at a little bit earlier time than that, around 20% at 5 p.m. Over the next 24 hours, we are expecting for our winds to be around 10 to 20 miles an hour. Not really seeing any problems there in terms of extra, like 40-mile-per-hour winds, but still in the Electric City, we could be looking at maybe a 30-mile-per-hour wind gust. Over the next 7 days, 81 degrees on Thursday, so that's our coolest temperature. And then for the short-term forecast, long-term forecast rather, the next 2 weeks, we are expecting to take a dip in our temperatures, but by how much? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. Tonight, 53 in Lewistown, 52 in Havre, and 54 in Hayes. Going throughout the next 7 days for Great Falls, we are looking at introducing a chance for showers on Tuesday. So heads up, 88 degrees, dropping down to 81 on Thursday. And then for our friends in Helena, well, we're looking at a better chance for showers and thunderstorms on Tuesday, looking at a 30% chance of that, 20% on Wednesday with sunny skies on Friday. Matt?
Well, Grant, those temperatures might not show, but it's almost fall, right? And that means it's almost football season. A number of college conferences have decided to cancel or postpone football this year. High school football in Montana is still holding steady in many parts of the state. Now, coming up, we'll hear from Isaiah Dunk about how one team that spent last year rebuilding is ready to embrace this upcoming season. We're back with that story and more in just 2 minutes.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Welcome back. We're continuing with our high school football previews. Tonight we'll hear from a team looking to rebound after a transition year last year. MTN's Isaiah Dunk takes us to Hobson.
Following 3 pretty successful seasons with playoff appearances at the 8-man level, the Tri-City Titans of Hobson, Moore, Judith Gap spent last season back in 6-man, where they stumbled a bit, going 5-4 and missing the playoffs. Head coach Jake Stevenson doesn't feel like that will be an issue this year.
There's always a transition year, and that's why it's not very fun to go back and forth from 6 to 8 very often. I feel like we got that out of the way, and your kids kind of get used to the nuances of 6-man. So now that they're all kind of used to it, I think that now they can kind of step up, and I feel like we have a good chance at reaching that next level this year just because of the kids that we have.
Stevenson said the Titans will probably stay in 6-man for the foreseeable future, but he's got a sizable roster this year. Senior Tucker Brown is the lone returning all-conference selection.
I mean, for me, being a lot bigger, it's just a lot more spread out, fast moving than 8-man's just more on the line blocking and stuff like that, which I do a lot more of. I think after last year, we kind of got the grips of 6-man back again. We should have a pretty good season, I think.
One thing the Titans have going for them is that their 3 communities have been less affected by COVID-19, making things feel somewhat normal at practice.
They're kind of in a world of our own right now. Like, we don't have to worry about it here, or it seems like it that way, even though everybody's got it on their minds. So maybe when we end up traveling somewhere else and you see everybody wearing masks everywhere, then they might receive that wake-up call and feel a little more appreciative of what they're getting to do right now.
In Hobson, Isaiah Dunk, MTN Sports.
Students from one Native American tribe are learning more than just math and reading. They're learning the language of their ancestors. Alexa Liaco shows us how the pandemic is jeopardizing efforts to save their culture.
It's a language born in these mountains, sacred to the Kalispel tribe of northeastern Washington.
We live in the mountains, along the rivers, we hunt and fish. That's our way.
Their language, a dialect called Salish, ties their past to the present.
The easy connection of the world, being connected to the ground, being connected to our ancestors. And language can do that. It gives you that identity.
An identity that could have been lost forever.
We have 4 elders that have the language, and they're it. And so we have to move.
Each day, J.R. Bluff works to keep his heritage alive.
Tempton's Quest's ownership. We believe we are backed into the corner. We believe we don't have tomorrow. It has to happen today.
So he started an immersion school to pass that language down to the next generation. All of the lessons are in Salish. Students who opt into the daily program come to the Salish school after a few hours at the public school across the street. And learning extends far past the Common Core education standards.
The language is healing. It filled a void that I didn't know I had. When the kids have a strong foundation and know who they are and where they come from, that they'll be more successful.
Just when JR saw his language growing strong through his students, the pandemic threatened to take it all away.
Our strength is relationship. You need to be in the seat with me.
It's not the same as being face-to-face. We lose time and we lose language.
To make sure that doesn't happen, the school's teachers are creating Salish lessons online, something they've never done before.
We're gonna figure it out. I don't know, we have to figure it out.
It'll take that extra effort in a place where Wi-Fi is not reliable and instruction is best done in person.
It's a sacred breath. You're not just hearing words, you are actually with me and you're hearing my breath. That's the strength of our language.
While the future of this classroom is left uncertain, the future of this culture is something JR says he will protect his entire life.
Our language has had so many bumps in its 1,000-year history. This is just another bump. It's real in that it affects our community, affects our household, affects our children, affects my teachers, but I know it will pass.
I'm Alexa Liaco.
And as of 2012, Salish is a critically endangered language according to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. We'll be right back.
Well, tonight, temperatures falling down to 53 degrees in Great Falls as well as Lewistown. A little bit cooler, though, up towards Cut Bank, where we're seeing temperatures around 45 degrees. As we head into tomorrow, we're looking at 91 in Great Falls, 92 in Havre, and 87 in Hayes. Overall, over the next 3 days, Great Falls, 94 degrees on Monday, 88 on Tuesday. And for our friends in Helena, showers back on Tuesday.
Well, in Thursday night's game between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Oakland Athletics, D-backs Ketel Marte hit a foul ball to left field. The left field stands, he hit a teddy bear on the head. Before the last night's game, the Oakland A's did an injury report on the bear. They said they were happy to report that T-Bear, despite feeling a little stuffy, has passed concussion protocol and will be ready for tonight's game. His new seat neighbor grabbed a helmet out of his trunk. As a precaution, the bear was back in the seats. There you can see a picture right there That is, you know, there's no fans, so that's you got to get creative,
you got
right?
to. That's pretty cool.
That's hilarious. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.